You wake up at 5 a.m., not because you want to, not because your body asked for it, but because someone on the internet with better skin than you said that's when successful people wake up. You drink something green that tastes like regret. You meditate, but you're thinking about your ex. You journal, but you're really just performing for the version of yourself you'll never become. And somewhere, deep in the cavern of your chest, there's this small voice asking, when did taking care of myself start to feel like a full-time job I'm failing at? Here's the thing about the wellness industry, and yes, it's a massive, cold-blooded industry, worth several $1 trillion in 2026, which is more than the GDP of most countries. It isn't actually selling you health. It's selling you the performance of health, the aesthetic of enlightenment, the curated high-definition Instagram story of your best self, glowing under a ring light while the rest of your life quietly falls apart in the shadows. Somewhere in the last decade, we collectively decided that being a functional human required a specific, exhausting ritual. Sunrise yoga, adaptogen lattes that taste like dirt, crystal grids, and cold plunges that feel like a polite form of waterboarding. We've developed meditation practices so rigid they'd make a Zen master tell you to lighten up and go get a kebab. And if you aren't doing all of it, if you aren't optimizing every breath, well, you aren't really trying, are you? You're just a lazy pile of carbon, failing at the simple task of being alive. But here's where it gets properly interesting. The wellness industry has pulled off the greatest heist in history. It's convinced us that the path to finding ourselves requires buying things. Lots of things. Expensive things made of sustainable bamboo and broken promises. Things that vow to unlock some authentic version of you that's apparently been hiding under layers of toxins, bad vibes, and insufficient hydration. It's brilliant, really. Capitalism looked at the messy, unmonetizable void of the human soul and finally found a way to put a barcode on it. I'm reminded of the original Trojan horse, that beautiful wooden gift left outside the gates of Troy. The Trojans, bless their optimistic hearts, thought it was a peace offering. They wheeled it inside, threw a massive party, got absolutely hammered on ancient wine, and then, well, you know how it ends. Men with swords pouring out of a horse's belly, a city in flames. The moral being, sometimes the thing that promises to save you is precisely the thing that destroys you. The wellness industry is our modern Trojan horse. It arrives at your door, wrapped in soft lighting and calming ambient music, promising inner peace and self-discovery. You wheel it in. You make space for it in your budget, your schedule, and your very identity. And then, quietly, almost imperceptibly, it starts to hollow you out. Not with swords, but with something far more insidious. The steady erosion of your ability to define what well actually means for you. Because here's the trick. Wellness, as it's sold to us, is prescriptive. It's a one-size-fits-all enlightenment. It's a checklist. And the moment your well-being becomes a checklist, it stops being about you and starts being about optimization. You're no longer a person experiencing the brief, weird miracle of consciousness. You're a project, a fixer-upper, a before photo desperately trying to buy enough supplements to become an after. We've turned the soul into a piece of software that needs constant debugging, forgetting that maybe the bugs are actually just the parts of us that make us human. We're being sold a version of ourselves that is polished, hairless, and utterly empty. A ghost in a very expensive, very healthy machine. Let's talk about Ozempic for a second. Stay with me. Here's a drug designed for diabetics that suddenly became the darling of the wellness world because it makes you thin quickly. Never mind the side effects. Never mind that it's addressing a symptom rather than a cause. Never mind that it's expensive and hard to access for the people who actually need it medically. What matters is that it works, and it works fast. And in a world that's been trained to expect instant gratification from every corner of existence, that's all we seem to care about anymore. This is the logical endpoint of commercialized wellness, the elimination of the journey, the eradication of the messy, uncomfortable, deeply personal process of figuring out who you are and what you need. Why spend years in therapy unpacking your relationship with food when you could just inject yourself into thinness? Why examine the societal structures that make you feel inadequate when you could buy your way into the illusion of adequacy? And look, I'm not here to moralize about Ozempic specifically. I'm here to point out what it represents. A culture that has become so detached from authentic self-discovery that we've started treating ourselves like problems to be solved rather than mysteries to be explored. There's this movement now called de-influencing. It's people pushing back against the endless product recommendations, the curated wellness routines, the algorithmic insistence that happiness can be purchased. It's beautiful in its way, a rebellion against the rebellion that was supposed to be self-care. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The fact that we need a movement to convince people to stop buying things in order to feel okay tells you everything about how deep the Trojan horse has penetrated. In the 1960s, there was a brief moment when wellness, or what they called consciousness expansion back then, was about liberation, about breaking free from the suffocating conventions of post-war conformity. People dropped out, they went to communes, they experimented with altered states. And yes, a lot of it was naive, and some of it was dangerous. But at its core, it was about authenticity, about finding yourself, not purchasing yourself. Fast forward to now, and wellness has become the ultimate conformity. We've just traded 3-piece suits for athleisure and martini lunches for green smoothies. The performance has changed. The performativity hasn't. So here's what I think, for what it's worth. Maybe being well isn't about optimization. Maybe it's about permission. Permission to be messy. Permission to not have your life together. Permission to define your own version of health that doesn't require a subscription service or a following on social media. Maybe the most radical act of self-care in 2026 is to stop caring so much about the self everyone else thinks you should be. To wheel that beautiful wooden horse back outside the gates and set it on fire. To reclaim your inner life from the people trying to sell it back to you. You don't need to be fixed. You were never broken. You're just a human being trying to be human in a world that's increasingly uncomfortable with humanness. And that, honestly, is enough.